Welcome to the Unit 4 ERP introduction video to Payroll. The process shown today will identify the key areas involved with preparing and committing a payroll, as well as highlighting the benefits of using a full HCM solution with all your data in one location. The process of committing a payroll contains many key stages or steps that need to be considered and reviewed throughout each period. Some of the stages will be carried out by other departments, such as HR, some by line managers, and some even by the end users themselves. However, regardless of who carries out that stage, as the system is one solution, all the data will feed through into the payroll, ready for review and commit. As payroll manager, Hannah has multiple payrolls she needs to review and commit over differing time periods. Hannah finds each payroll takes a lot of her time to check, and finding and correcting payroll transactions for each pay group and entity is challenging. Hannah has also found that calculations are becoming more frequent and complicated each year. This year, Hannah has been notified of multiple starters and leavers which she has needed to prorate, and she has found family calculations increasingly difficult to manage. With deadlines critical in payroll, Hannah has found she was being locked out of the system for too long, and this needs to change. Hannah's main dashboard has been created so she can review all aspects of the payroll lifecycle in one location. This includes the monthly pay analysis, general ledger transactions for the month, and all variable pay transactions for that month. At the top right, some items are flagged that require Hannah's attention. There are alerts that can bring to her attention information such as data that's been added to the system, for example, a list of new starters within the next 7 days which payroll need to check, or receipt of new starter declaration. There are also tasks, which are workflow items that require an action to be taken, for example, a season ticket loan application which needs processing. This example is a variable payment and deduction transaction. Escalation time sits behind workflows to ensure tasks are processed in a timely manner and in line with business requirements. Hannah also has access to Collaborator messaging tool. This enables her to investigate and participate in conversations with people in her team or across the wider business. It's particularly useful for bringing something to someone's attention that is not attached to a workflow. They are a great way of passing on important notes within the system. Hannah moves into the payroll processing area. This brings up the payroll dashboard. In this case, Hannah only has one payroll to focus on, but if she had multiple, each would have its own drop-down list within the menu, allowing her to focus on one payroll at a time. The power of the payroll dashboard is in its ability to access everything Hannah needs in one place, rather than relying on a number of different reports, tools, and spreadsheets to monitor and maintain payroll. The whole design and concept is based on making the payroll processes as clear and convenient as possible. On the main dashboard, Hannah can see a countdown to the next pay date to enable her to prioritise work based on approaching deadlines. There's a summary of all variable transactions, for instance, overtime, back pay, and bonus payments. Hannah can quickly identify anything that she might want to investigate further and take the necessary action. Hannah has payroll controls, which will flag a notification if there are any exceptions in a particular area. For example, this would be useful to highlight any larger changes from the previous month for audit purposes, such as a major increase against a particular pay element. This could be due to an annual pay review on salary, for example, but it highlights the need for a sense check. Controls are configurable to your needs, but can also be used for things such as sickness or maternity pay entitlement monitoring, or simply to review all in-period transactions. Using the past period comparison, Hannah is able to see each payment and deduction broken down into total amount for that period, so she would be able to identify any large discrepancies for her to then investigate. Hannah also has the ability to review the current month's payroll transactions through these control reports that she has access to. Hannah has a report looking at monthly salary by department to gain a picture of the overall salary spend. At the bottom of Hannah's dashboard, she is able to see a countdown of the months that payroll has been successfully processed, as well as the month that is currently open. Looking at this breakdown, green means the payroll has run for that period and has been completed, and the employees have been paid. The blue box in the current period indicates that an initial gross to net calculation has been run and allows her to drill down for more information. If there's an exclamation mark here, it will highlight that there is some items that need her attention. Hannah now has a more detailed overview of all the transactions within this current run, and she can start her audit checks and reconciliations. Let's look at a couple in a bit more detail. There's a random comparison that will pick out a handful of employees for the current run and give Hannah a full breakdown of their payments and deduction. She has payroll transactions, where she can call up any pay element within this period and drill down into the details of any employee associated with that element within this run. There are payroll differences for reconciliation against the previous month. She can order and filter these too, so for example, she could just isolate overtime. There is a national insurance age check, which tells her if someone's in the wrong national insurance group. These can be updated automatically by the system at 21, 25 and state pension age. But even if she chooses to update automatically, it's good to get notifications when these things happen. There is also the payroll proposal, which will detail all pay elements for all employees, which, like the payroll transactions, she can sort and filter in any way she requires. If Hannah does find any anomalies, she can drill down into the employee and investigate. She can then correct any errors. The great thing about this is not only can the calculation process be run as many times as required within the pay period, it's also really easy to process any required amendments. She just removes the relevant people from the proposal, makes the adjustments, and then adds them back in. She doesn't have to rerun the whole proposal again just because of one or two changes. The collaborator tool is really useful here too, because Hannah can send a query including a screenshot of a perceived error to the right people to review and then decide what needs to be done, if anything. And of course, all the functionality is backed up with a full audit trail. These payroll checks are relevant and purposeful, and again, having that one point to access all her reconciliation and audit checks from makes the user experience smooth and intuitive. Her previous system didn't have this, and she finds it really beneficial to her role. Paul finds family calculations more difficult each year. An employee has submitted her MAP-B1 form, so Paul comes into the system to enter her maternity leave. Once the due date is submitted, the system will automatically calculate the rest of the days inclusive of average weekly pay, which can be overridden if needed. Once Paul has put all the information in the system, he can activate when ready, and the system will define all statutory payments. If the individual is not entitled to maternity, the system will produce an SMP1 along with the reason why they are not entitled. That form can then be printed or emailed to the individual. Hannah has set up quick links on her system, which makes life easier for her when using it. She's put links to pages that she uses on a regular basis. Firstly, the PD register, or Payment and Deduction Register, where all pay elements are held. This example on the screen is our monthly pay element. It has a code, a name, and you can see that it is a fixed or permanent element. Calculation rules define the formula attached to the element. In the case of monthly pay, this can be as simple as monthly pay divided by 12 times percentage FTE. However, calculations can be much more sophisticated and complex and have if, and, or branches to cover a huge variety of requirements. There will also be pro rata rules to determine how to treat mid-period or part-timer calculations around starters and leavers, for example. As long as there is a logic, it can be represented in a formula. There are various other selectable settings around rounding rules, date limits, and connected back pay elements. Analysis is where we determine where the cost for an element comes from and where the general ledger posting will go, a major benefit in having an integrated payroll and finance system. Base allows you to determine if the element is taxable, NIable, pensionable, etc., so your UK legislation rules. It's worth mentioning that we maintain the legislation items for you as part of your standard support schedule, so we will ship out the required changes to statutory and year-end updates in advance of changing requirements. We always keep ahead of these changes and develop solutions as details are released. So, for example, we developed the relevant furlough pay and SSP adjustments for our customers, so they were ready to process in line with the government job retention scheme as the changes unfolded this year. Limit is where you will define things such as reducing balances for season ticket loans, expense limits, or for example redundancy payments where the first $30,000 is tax-free. We can then pass anything over that limit to another element to calculate the correct deductions. And info determines how the element will be displayed on the payslip. She also has links to reports. These are standard reports generated by payroll processors that can be used for further reconciliation and bank checks. Position register is a link to look up details relating to a particular position or job. Hannah is able to see any relations, employments, responsibilities, as well as main details such as pay step and position details. And of course, electronic document repository, which is where we will link directly to the HMRC Message Center to send EPS and FPS files, as well as download files such as tax code changes for automatically loading into the system. Again, it's going to be good to be able to do all these from one system without needing to go to an external site for upload and download of HMRC files. As you would expect, our solution is HMRC accredited and meets all of the requirements for RTI. The last item in the links is auto-enrollment processing, which is also part of core functionality. In addition, we support the production of auto-enrollment correspondence in line with the suggested content from the Pension Authority for each circumstance. The letter will be automatically generated once the process is run. As you have seen from the short demonstration, Hannah found previously each payroll she has to manage took a lot of time to check, and she found it difficult to identify errors. Now Hannah can split her payrolls into groups, review everything she needs in one dashboard, and has set up alerts and notifications in the system, so it makes her job easier and highlights what she needs to look at. Hannah also found the calculations were becoming more frequent and complicated each year. Now the system prorates for Hannah, so when she is notified about a new starter or leaver, the system will do the associated calculations for her to review and amend where needed. Hannah can now review her payroll as often as she wants, make changes, take out people when only needing to make 1 or 2 changes, and it doesn't affect her whole pay run. She can be prepared and make the smaller changes in advance, so she is as prepared as possible in advance of the payroll deadline. If you would like any further information on anything you have seen today, please contact your account manager.